So we're in our series around home, and we are going to be in the book of Luke this morning. And we're going to jump like right into the action, so I'm just going to set the scene a little. Who's heard of the prodigal son? Great. The woos I'm interested in. Like, was that like, oh, woo, I resonate? Or like, ooh, it's one of my favorites. So basically, there's two brothers. One of them asked for his inheritance early. He takes it. He blows it on all kinds of debauchery and nasty little things. And then it finds himself working for this family and is like, man, even the servants at my dad's house live better than me. I should go back and like plead for him to like let me do that. And then he gets there, and instead his dad's like, let's have a party. And that's like about where we are. I didn't want to read all of that, so that's catches up. I'd be here for like 20 minutes, you know, so we really got to pick up to speed. So, okay, so now this is the dad talking, right, when we're going, bring the fattened calf and kill it. So now you have context. If we would have started there, how weird. Let's have a feast and celebrate, for this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. So they began to celebrate. Meanwhile, on the other side of the dime, just kidding. Sorry. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. Your brother has come, he replied, and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound. The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, look, look, all these years I have been slaving for you, and never disobeyed your orders, yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, who has squandered your property with prostitutes, comes home, you kill the fattened calf for him. This is a dramatic reading. I like it. My son, the father said, you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. So this is a parable that I've heard a million sermons on. I grew up hearing all the time. And I think I say this a lot in this room, that the beauty of parables, and I think one of my favorite things is that Jesus uses so many parables, because when you use a parable, it's not about information, it's about invitation, right? You don't know exactly what it is. You're meant to find yourself in the story. You take all of the responsibility and you put it on the listener when you use a parable, because you use this story about these two sons and the father and all these things, and there's all these different nuances. And I think the reason why these stories still have so much wisdom in a place like Los Angeles in 2025 is because we are meant to find ourselves in them. And so as I'm thinking about this series and this home series, I've been obsessed with this experience of the older brother. And I've been obsessed recently with realizing that even though he had created he was in the perfectly created home, and he was in the best case scenario, and all of the things were available to him, he was still trying to earn it. And nothing has felt more familiar. That there is no way that you could feel home in a place, even if it is something perfectly curated, unless you feel at home in yourself. And how many of us have experienced something where we are desperately trying to earn it, and how well does that work? But there's a reality with sometimes of not understanding that we are our inherent goodness and dignity and worth and children of God. And as I was thinking about this, I was reminded of this story. And this is an experience I had probably 12 years ago. So I was only 10. Just kidding. But 12 years ago, I was deep in the closet. My wife and I were, well, she wasn't my wife at the time. Can you imagine? Like, deep in the closet, married, 2 kids. We were just best friend roommates. And I was so still wildly uncomfortable with who I was. Not like discovering these things, but not feeling at home, but wanting a home, and just conflicted, right? Not feeling at home myself. And my wife ran into a friend of hers who she knew from Christian college, who had been out for many years. And she was like, I think I'm going to tell her about us. I was like, yeah, tell her about us. Like, let's see what happens. And so she told her about us, and she said, we're in love, we don't know what to do, we're closeted, all these things. And she said, oh, come meet some of my friends. And so I walk into this room of just like the coolest lesbians I've ever seen in the world. Okay, there's like a million of them, you know. Felt like in reality there was probably like 8, but that's the most lesbians I had ever seen in my life up to that point. And so I walk into this house, and I just remember feeling, if I've never felt more comfortable and uncomfortable. Like, this is exactly where I wanted to be. This was everything. This was like comparable to my dad, I'm assuming, killing a fatted calf. I don't know. And I didn't know how to be there. Like, I just felt so, I wanted to feel at home in that space, and I was so happy to be in that space, but nothing has made me feel more uncomfortable. Because I wasn't at home in myself, and so I couldn't feel at home in this space that I so desperately wanted to belong to. I was like, these are my people. I'm one of you, I think. I don't know. Am I okay? Is this? And all the background noise. And I think about that experience all the time. And I think about now moments in my life where I walk into a room of lesbians and I'm like, like deep breath, you know? But at that moment, everything I wanted and everything I wanted to be, I still didn't know how to be in it because I hadn't figured out how to be in it with myself. And I think sometimes for a lot of us, we have these experiences where someone will curate the home, or we're obsessed with someone creating the space for us or doing all the things. But if we don't understand how to walk into that without thinking we deserve it, or without doing the work to come home to ourselves, then we'll never be able to experience the fullness and the richness of what those spaces have for us. We talk about this all the time, as I feel like I'm just talking about my wife this morning. But there's something so beautiful about when we got married. I always said, like, home is a person now. Like, when I think about it, I'm like, that's where I want to be. And my wife can create the most space and do the most things and be the most loving. And if I don't feel like I deserve it, or if I'm not feeling like I come home to myself, then I'm never going to be able to experience the vulnerability and the beauty of that connection to home. You can be in the most perfect, you could have 5 fatted calves killed for you, you could have the party, you could do all these things, and if you don't feel like you deserve it, you're never going to be able to experience the fullness of it. And so before we can come home to anywhere, I think we have to come home to ourselves. And there's a few narratives that work against us coming home to ourselves sometimes. Some of us picked up early in church that our experience or our home in a space or our home with God relies on us earning it. That's how this son felt, right? He's like, I've been slaving away, I've been working, I haven't made a mistake. I did all the right things. I signed the purity pledges, I went to the Bible studies, I did all the things, and you still haven't let me feel at home. And he's like, oh, you didn't have to do all that. You were already home. And I'm a person who had that narrative growing up, and I still shed that sometimes. I'm like, okay, I'll let myself feel at home. I'll let myself feel the goodness, feel like God loves me. I'll let myself feel like a child of God after I've earned it. Once I've been good enough, then I can be like, it feels so good to be worthy, you know? And I think a lot of us still feel those feelings, and we can resonate with those feelings. That we have to earn our goodness and our dignity and our belovedness. And over and over and over and over in Scripture is a reminder that we already have it. That everything the Father has is already ours. We just live into that reality. And once we live into that reality, then we can create those spaces. I think one of the other things that gets difficult sometimes in coming home to ourselves is sometimes we get a little obsessed with someone else creating that for us. If only someone would do X, Y, Z. If only my father would kill the fatted calf. If only this person would present this conversation in this way. If only I could get into this kind of relationship. If only I could have this kind of thing. Once everything is right, once someone else, like all the circumstances of my life, can create the perfect home environment, then I will finally feel at home with myself. And that's tough because that, in case you've ever chased that carrot, never happens. And even when it does, then the needle just moves. I remember I was listening to an interview a few years ago with a very famous person who I can't think of right now. But think of someone who's like really famous, has a lot of money. I don't know, like, you know what I mean? And he was saying that he's found all this success and all this money, and the thing he misses, the time in his life where he feels like he was the happiest, was when he lived in Santa Monica and there was 8 roommates and they were in a 1-bedroom apartment and they were all going out for auditions and they were doing all these things and they were like scrappy and they were like doing all, I'm like, what? You have like 19 houses now. And he's like, you know what I miss most? The like shittiest apartment ever, right? But imagine that was a time where he felt at home with himself, connected to these things. And you imagine that like, oh, I just need to get to the next place. I need to get to the next thing. I need to hit the next marker. I need to do the next thing. I need to earn it. And then I will feel at home. And then I will feel happy. When the whole neighborhood throws a party for me returning, when all of these things happen, it's happening for everyone else. I deserve for it to happen to me too. And then we miss the fact that we are already good. We are already there. We can already come home to ourselves at any moment. In an apartment with 8 people, in a mansion, in a house in Seattle you bought because you went through our financial literacy classes, a little plug. And as we go into this series of home, and this morning, as I was thinking about this community, I just wanted to remind us all that we don't have to earn it. That we don't have to chase a moment, that we can come home to ourselves at any time. And coming home to ourselves is the only way we're ever going to be able to feel at home in this community, feel at home with our people, feel at home with our city, feel at home in all the ways we want to. It reminds me of the words from the prophet RuPaul. When she says, at the end of every episode of Drag Race, a couple fans. Okay, a couple fans. But at the end of every single episode of Drag Race, RuPaul says, if you can't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love somebody else? Can I get an amen? I love this church. I love this church. If you don't know the good news of Drag Race, you could feel free to catch up at any time. But it is, if you can't love yourself, then how can you love someone else? And if you can't experience home in yourself, then how can you create that reality for someone else? And if you don't feel like you deserve it, if you don't feel like your goodness and your dignity is inherent to who you are, that everything the Father has is already yours, then we can't share that feeling with anyone else. I think we just have a lot of pressure as people to earn something. And it's really hard to imagine that it's just already ours because we are. Every single week, we do communion at New Abbey. And every single week that I'm doing it, I say like the same thing. And it is that I'm amazed and I love being a part of this church because I grew up in churches where it's like before you took communion, it was like scary stuff. They were like, if there is any impurity anywhere in your heart, like this will turn to ash in your mouth kind of thing. And I'd be like, oh God, you know, they're like, before you walk up here, and so I'd be like, like just trying to be like, don't think about anything, which anytime you're not trying to think about the thing you shouldn't be thinking about, you're like, are girls hot? You're like, oh no, not now. I don't want to eat a hash. And coming to New Abbey and getting to say every single week exactly how you are. Exactly as you are right now, you are welcome at this table. And I am constantly challenged in my own life by the fact that it is a lot easier for me to say that to you all than for me to always believe that for myself. It is a lot easier to look and criticize, why is the younger brother doing this? Why are these things? Than it is to say like, oh my gosh, I can do that? Am I good? Do I have dignity? Do I have to earn it? Can I be at home in myself? Is everything the Father has mine? What does that mean? Just as I am right now, I'm worthy of coming to this table. I'm worthy of love. I'm worthy of relationships. I'm worthy of all of these things. Those are incredibly easy words for me to say every week as we come to the table. But sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like a hard thing to do. But that's the good stuff that we get to do. And the dream for this community as we create a home together is that we wouldn't be able to just push that in each other, but believe that for ourselves. And out of the overflow of believing that it is true for ourselves, have it be true for everyone else. I love yelling at people about the dignity of other people, and I will, and we'll keep doing it, because we live in a time, in a world, in a space. We are having to defend that more often than I would like. And that passion and that reminder I have to also allow to be true for me. That if I want to scream from the mountaintops that every single person is deserving of dignity and liberation and love and is good, then that has to be true for me too. And sometimes it's harder to be true for me. It's easier to be true for my neighbor, but if it's not actually true about me, then how true is it really about my neighbor? And so this morning I just want to remind us that it's okay to come home to ourselves. It's actually necessary before we go out and create a home for those around us. And so with that, you're going to grab the same 3 or 4 people around you and answer this question. What is one way you can come home to yourself this week? Enjoy.